You're listening to Titans of the Trades. I'm your host, Ryan England, author of Hire Better People Faster and creator of the CoreFit hiring system, a proven process to help growing companies attract and retain only the best. I'm on a mission to revolutionize the perception of the trades and elevate it to new heights. After growing up in a blue-collar family, my passion for making the trades cool again runs deep. If you're a titan in the industry and want to be on my show, stick around until the end and I'll reveal how you can be my next guest. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Titans of the Trades. I am your host, Ryan England. Today's guest is the CEO of a very successful roofing company and also the head operations coach for the Roofing Academy. So not only is she living it and doing it, she's actually teaching it as well. And did I fail to mention that she is a very successful woman in a leadership role? I'm so excited about today's episode. You've probably heard me talk about it before. If we want to solve the labor crisis, we've got to make it easier for women to get in the trades. And not only does Brie Reis have experience doing this, but she's also got some very inspirational tips on how to make it happen in your business. So get ready to take some notes and get ready to learn about some events she has coming up. I want to introduce Brie Reis, CEO of Elite Roofs and also the head operations coach of the Roofing Academy. Brie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Ryan.
I'm excited to talk to you. We've been working on this for 2 months? Between hurricanes and illnesses and everything else. It's been a challenge to get this recording take place, but here we are. And I'm very excited about not only you sharing your story, but also maybe even inspiring some women that have looked at the trades as a career opportunity saying, oh, it's too tough, I can't make it. Because here you are, the CEO of a roofing company, and not a small one by that.
No.
And also the head of operations coaching through the Roofing Academy. You are just making it happen. And so I would love to know, can you just share with us briefly your story, how you got to where you are and what you're doing today?
Yeah, definitely. So I found myself in roofing. I think like most women, we have a brother or a husband or a son that's in the trades. And so we get pulled in that way. In my case, I have a brother who owns Elite Roofing. I'm now a partner as well, but at the time he hired me as his admin assistant 15 years ago. And we quickly realized that he was great at casting vision and I was great at implementing. And so as the company grew, I grew alongside it. And I have pretty much worked in every single position or role in the organization, except for labor. I can't say I've swung a hammer, and I cannot say I've sold a lot of service, a lot of repair work, but I haven't sold a roof. So not sales. So, but everything else, operations, administration, finance, I have had my hands inside of. And it turns out it just really was a great fit for me. And I also like to say that once you're in roofing, you just can't get out. Good luck with that.
There's reasons for that, but that's probably another show.
Right.
Yeah. So that's great. So you're the CEO of Elite Roofing and Solar now. Correct. And how big is your team?
We have 15 full-time employees, and then we have another 12 1099 employees. There's our entire sales staff and our supplement team. Not to throw out get us off track or anything, but are all 1099 contractor. All
right. And then you outsource as you need to, as you grow, as the hailstorms come through, right? You need to install some roofs and everything else. And then you've also got Roofing Academy, which is where you guys really focus on helping roofers get to that next level or hit their goals. And that's something else that you're a part of, correct?
Yeah. We found that roofing had kind of like a used salesman. People didn't view it very well. And so we were just thinking, man, how can we uplift the whole industry? Yeah. And we thought maybe through coaching, but most people that start a roofing company are a salesman or a laborer, neither of which are very good at running a business. So we wanted to take those people that were really great at their roles and then show them, how do I properly run a business now so that they can be successful from that standpoint.
No, that's great. Yeah. I would say that when it comes to solar, they very much have that used car salesman because when I was in Arizona, I mean, it was like twice a day. I'd get somebody knocking on the door going, have you thought about putting solar yet? The incentives are expiring next week. And then they'd always renew the incentives. And I was like, okay, I'm starting to catch on to you guys here.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely the case.
So, hey, as you were going through this journey of starting out administrative position, learning the operations of the business, what are some of the pivotal moments or decisions that you had to make that helped you advance your career, but also take the company to the next level? Like, what are some of those things when you think back to building Elite Roofing and Solar?
Yeah, I think that speaking to where you come from, like we've always, whether it be through just grace or through intentionality, we've always had really, really, really good people around us. We've been able to retain, a lot of our team has been with us 10, 11 years. And I would say some of the pivotal moments is just even as a leadership team, knowing when to pivot and making sure that we find the healthiest form of our own roles for ourselves, not just for the team around us. I know that's been a huge thing in helping us to get where we currently are. And just for myself personally, like I'm always true to what I'm doing, and so I always want to do the best that I can do in any position that I am in. And so I think through that, just, I was admin for a couple of years, and then I always say I grew up in production. So I spent the bulk of my career in the production department. And then moving into finance, being able to connect the way that the production industry or the production department actually impacts the financial side, which is actually truly our operations, really helped push me forward and my business forward. Because I have such a good understanding of how sales relates to production and how production is going to relate to your finance.
Mm. Yeah. And I find that if you were in sales or in the trade itself, you were on the labor side in the field, finance probably not the thing that you're either good at or that you even like, for that
Right.
matter, right?
Yep.
Oh, and it's so interesting how much, especially when the margins are tight, how important it is to really have a good understanding of the finances and being able to forecast, predict, make sure there's enough cash left over at the end of the month. Because for a lot of people, I know that there's more month than there is cash, right?
Yep.
And I'm sure that's something you probably get into a lot in the Roofing Academy, is helping people understand that piece.
It's such a huge part of it. It's what we forget about. I think people are so focused on sales all the time that they forget that the number that we all actually need to be looking at is our net profit, not our sales number. So it's a lot of what we talk about. And I think it's something that's under talked about inside of the trades. And even I just went to a conference 2 weeks ago, just purely out of curiosity, and out of like 30 breakout sessions, there wasn't a single one on finance. And so I think it's an underserved area when we're looking at the trades. I think people like to talk about the other things more because it's more fun. But I think we need to be focusing on more on the money.
I don't disagree with you at all on that one. For the longest time, it was all about sales. It was all about marketing. It was some operational stuff. And they didn't even really talk about people. And still, even a lot of those conventions and the training, they still don't focus on the most important part of people, which is how do you connect with them? How do you get them to stay 11 years? Like, that was not an accident. It's not that like, oh, they pay me so well, I've never even thought about it. Right? There are other things that you're doing to make that happen. And so between understanding the finance and the people side, I mean, that really is a service business.
Correct. Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you've done over the years to retain people that long?
Yeah, I think we've always had a main focus of being on relationship and accountability. Our why is to challenge the status quo while providing opportunity for others. And we take that really, really seriously. And that doesn't mean that we, pay people more than what they're worth or anything like that. It just means that we develop a relationship with our team. And that has been one of the biggest upsides. Like, it sounds cliche, but one of our values is family. And we mean that. Like, we treat each other like family. And at the same time, my team's family is more important than Elite. So like, take care of your family, and I'm going to do my best to support that, and vice versa. So I think it creates a serious level of loyalty when your team knows that you are going to not only care about them, but care about their families. It's little things. It's like sending flowers to their wife if their wife has surgery. It's just being intentional about things that make them understand that you truly care about who they are, so that they're almost in a way like, man, if I go to another business, they're not going to care. I'm just going to clock in and clock out. Like, I want to be here where Brie and Brandy and Cody are going to care about my future.
I love that. Yeah, I think we teach a lot of this too. If you don't care about what's going on in their personal lives, you can't expect them to care about your business.
That's true.
And it sounds like that just becomes so natural for you. And I always caution people when they say they have a core value, like, oh, I'm thinking family is a core value. Just be careful, because not everybody likes their family. But after 11 years, it sounds like you guys are doing some things really well on that relationship and the communication piece. Talk to me a little bit about that communication, because you do not live in the same city as the company that you run. And so you're managing a remote team. How do you overcome that? Like, what are some best practices for communication that you have, some things that you've learned?
You have to have a regular one-on-one schedule with your team, whether you're remote or whether you all are in the same office. There has to be a time and a point where your team knows that they're going to be able to sit down with you. And that ties to, I start those one-on-ones with, how are you? And I finish those one-on-ones with measurable accountabilities that we can go through and make sure. And this doesn't take a lot of time. It takes 15, 20 minutes. Once you know it's going to be a regular thing. And I think the area that gets overlooked the most with one-on-ones is your field guys. And those are my one-on-ones that I absolutely will never miss, is my one-on-one with my field guys. It's the most important one-on-one that I.
Yeah. Well, I find that a lot of the mindset is, well, we're sitting in the office next to each other, so we can have a one-on-one, go grab lunch or whatever. But the field guys, like, they're remote, out of sight, out of mind. I absolutely agree with you, because they're the ones delivering your service.
Yeah.
Without them, you don't have roofs to repair. You don't have service to sell. You don't have installs. You don't have any of that. You said regularly. What's that mean?
I do weekly with my laborers, and I do bi-weekly to monthly with my administrative staff, depending on whether they're my direct reports or my direct reports.
So as the CEO of the company, I just want to get this straight. You meet with every laborer once a week for 15 minutes.
Correct. Yeah.
Without fail. You don't miss those.
And I just want to be clear, my service team. Okay. And so my solar department, I have an operations manager who meets with them.
Okay. But that's great. I love that you qualified that, because somebody still needs to meet with them.
Correct. Their direct report needs to meet with them. It is a qualification of being a manager.
Every week, though?
Every week. Yeah.
One-on-one.
One-on-one.
I love this.
And let me tell you where the accountability piece comes in, because the number one thing we do after the how are yous is we check their time from the week before. Okay. So we're looking at their time. We're looking at their map. We're making sure that they clocked in at the right time. They clocked out at the right time. We're checking their piecework to make sure that those things are aligning. We're making sure they're clocking out at the right time, that they're not driving home, so these are all things that we touch on after we hit on how are yous.
Yeah.
So it's really important. It's really important, so that you're setting up this foundation of, like, you cannot just stay on the clock for the whole day. That's why it's an even 50-50 between creating that relationship and that bond, and then creating some accountability. People like to know what's expected of them.
I couldn't have said it better myself. You're absolutely right. They love to know what's expected. They want to know how to put points on the board. Because if they don't know how to put points on the board, then what are they playing for?
Correct. I agree with that.
I love that. So, I hear you say that, and I'm sure there's people listening right now going, "You're crazy, Brie, you're nuts." Once a week, every single field guy, 15 minutes. And I imagine you can't have not met with the guys for 3 years and then go to 15-minute weekly. Like, it's all going to feel weird and it's going to break, and it took time to get there. But I imagine over time, 15 minutes might even feel like a long time for some of these.
Yeah. I mean, it's in and out, because now I don't have to. So it was taking me, before I went to these one-on-ones and had this idea, it was taking me 2 hours to check their time every week. Or my service manager, it was taking her 2 hours to check their time every week. So in like making phone calls, hey, like, were you supposed to be clocked in? Or, you know what I mean? It's just like you're actually shortening the length of time that you're spending. I also, because they know and they're used to the consistency, if they have something that they want to talk to me about, I get less phone calls from them. They'll just save those conversations for when they know they're going to meet with me. So it saves me my phone ring all the time during random times. So like, hey, I know I'm meeting with Brie on Thursday at 7 a.m. So I'll
Yeah.
just save this conversation to that point. So it seems backwards, but it will actually save you time if you commit to those one-on-ones.
That's the key right there, is committing to those one-on-ones, because those guys will save it because they know you're going to be there Thursday. But if you're the flaky supervisor and you cancel half the time, they don't know that you're going to be there, right? And
Yeah,
so they don't know you'll be available. So like, well, I want to save it for Thursday, but you know what? The last 3 got canceled. So maybe I'll just call now. Like, you have
right.
to commit. You have to be consistent. You have to let them know that they're important. And I think that's what you're really saying is, I care about you. And it's not just we're meeting and it's fluffy, but we're actually having a real conversation about real results and making sure that your personal goals are being met as well. No, I
Yeah.
love that.
I'm glad you mentioned that too, because it's not just about your consistency. About their consistency. It's about your consistency and accountability. Like, you are teaching your team how to behave. And if they're misbehaving, then you're going to have to self-reflect a little bit and say, okay, why are they misbehaving? What am I doing as a manager that could potentially cause them? The body will follow the head every time. Your staff is your body and you're the head. So like, how are you leading these people if they're not able to step into some of the things you need them to?
Yeah, I'm sure you have some tough conversations with people in the Roofing Academy, just like we have tough conversations with our clients. If you're struggling with performance issues with your people, or retention issues with your people, or people aren't sticking around through onboarding because they're leaving quickly, the problem is most likely looking back at you in the mirror.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a tough conversation to have, but sometimes they just need to hear it.
Yeah. It is a tough conversation to have, but it absolutely needs to be had.
I love it. So I'd love to shift gears for a little bit,
Mhm.
because we have a labor crisis in the trades. And I don't think we have a labor shortage. And that's a debate for another time, but we do have a
Yeah.
crisis.
I agree with you though. Yeah.
People do not want to join these jobs where they're treated poorly, where they are marginalized, where they are just looked down upon and called a set of hands. And if, oh, that hand doesn't work today, I'll just go get another set of hands, right? Like, they really want to know that they're cared for. And I think that this perception that the trades has, which is we really don't care for our people, we don't care about their personal goals, we just want to get them in and get them out of jobs, I actually believe is one of the reasons that we've kept women from joining the trades. And being a woman in the trades, growing up here in a leadership position, what are some thoughts that you have on inspiring? I want these leaders to hear from you and saying, hey, if you want to attract women into the trades, you have to become this, or you have to do this. What are some things that you could say to inspire leaders that are in the industry right now that are open to bringing women into the trades? What can they do? How can they shift this narrative and really become that employer of choice for young women?
Yeah. I think that providing a organization where, um, your people know that they're cared for, even if it starts with the men that are in your organization and they're talking about your organization in a way that they know that they're going to be cared for, that there's going to be some type of relationship there. Women desire relationship. It's a part of how our genes are made up, our genetics are made up. So I think creating a foundation where people know that is, it goes back to like treating everybody, equally in regards to that. Like, if you are building relationships with your team, you're going to do that regardless. And then they're going to spread that word, that's the way that you treat people. But I think that if you can't get women in through a labor area. So for me, one of my first questions is going to be on a phone interview with a new technician is, can you regularly lift 90 pounds? One bundle of shingles weighs 90 pounds. So if your answer to that is no, then, our conversation doesn't go a whole lot further than. So there is, a skill set where women can bring in. I always say that women can see problems from really far out, where men really don't see that problem until it's right in front of their face. So you need somebody that can filter problems from really far out. So if that's from an administrative side, like, absolutely. I think that if you bring women in from an administrative side, they're going to give you instant upside. into your organizations.
Yeah. Yeah. And there is that too. There are some physical requirements to be in the field. And we've actually worked with some companies that have said, you know what, if we can shift this piece of it, like if lifting 90 pounds is the only requirement that's a barrier for women being in the trades, because not a lot of women can do that, they've actually found ways to modify the workflows to support that. But then, of course, everything's becoming automated. There's more equipment. There are ways to support that stuff. One of the things that we see is a lot of times we have to work with the superintendents or the foremen, the leaders in the field, and talk to them about the way they communicate, because that's a huge barrier, is the way they communicate. And don't even get me started on the fact that they don't make safety vests that don't fit women right.
Yeah, they don't.
Like, let's not even get started on that part of it, because that's an issue as well. But I think for the employer's perspective, becoming a good communicator, understanding that relationship is important. You could half the population is women. Like, you want to solve some of this labor crisis, you can fix half of it overnight. If we could just invite women in the trades. And, we've worked with, we've had some guests on the podcast from Comfort Systems, from NAWIC, from NCCER that are very passionate about this. And so I just love seeing, even though you've never been in the field, you are still surrounded by this and you know how to work with it and you're well respected. And I just love that what you're doing for that. So not that our target audience is women thinking about getting in the trades, but I really hope that they get to hear some of that from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that I'd love to see women, like I have so many women that work for me from an administrative side. And it's one of my main purposes. I mean, when I came into this role as administrative assistant, like it's part of my story. And is that like I was a drug addict, and that was the first year that I was sober, was moving into this position, and so I didn't know I was good at anything, when I was hired into roofing. And so for me to be able to discover how talented I am, and my capability and my capacity and what I could accomplish, like I just want everybody to feel that, but especially women. So my entire middle management started in that same role. So I project that a little bit. I like to see to hire a woman that I see potential in, and then show her what that potential is. And it's really, really cool to watch. I think there's, I know you don't have a lot of women listeners probably, but there's an insecurity in women that I don't think a man can quite understand or wrap his mind around. So it's really cool to watch and see women being pulled out of that insecurity as they learn and grow. Like, oh my gosh, I am capable of so much more than I thought I was.
Yeah. We talk a lot about just the difference between men and women, the way they think, the way they communicate, the way they listen, the words they choose to use, because so much of that, it doesn't matter if it's in personal relationships or business relationships, like it carries through. And so I love that you've seen that there is so much opportunity to bring the trades, even on the administrative side, by having more women in leadership roles. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up now, I know that we've talked a little bit about Elite Roofs. We talked a little about Roofing Academy. I want, here's your chance. You've got 90 seconds. Let's plug Roofing Academy. Let's tell our listeners about Roofing Academy, what you guys are up to over there, because I do know we have roofing companies listening to this, and they may be thinking, hey, you know what? Maybe I've heard of Roofing Academy, or maybe I've hoped that there's always been something like that out there. Tell us a little bit about Roofing Academy and how people can get a hold of you.
Yeah. So theroofingacademy.com. We also have a podcast called the Start, Build, Grow Show. You can find that anywhere you get your podcasts. But Facebook is like our main start area for that. And so come look us up. I mean, we're really, really focused on helping small roofing companies get over that hump. We want to see companies get to about 10 million. But we know that a lot of people get jammed up at 2, 3, 4, even 5 million. So we're really, really good at bringing people in to a space where they can start to reach some of those higher goals and realize that freedom, because all of us business owners, we dream of freedom, and we think it's money, but it's financial. The money is actually what gets us to the freedom. That's the desire. And so that's what we're trying to do over there. We have several success stories. You can go look at our testimonials online, and really just a beautiful community as we get, so many years into this, a beautiful community of like-minded roofing owners And that's where so much of the value, it's not just in us and just in the coaches, but it's the fact that you can now call a roofer in your market and say, hey, how did you handle this issue? So creating a community of roofers has really been a part of the huge upside. So come check us out. We're very well priced compared to a lot of consulting businesses. We have a great online platform and things like that. So
I love that. Hey, Brie, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been a treat for me, and I loved hearing your story, and I cannot just wait to see what the next step is for you and everything at Elite Roofs and Roofing Academy. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you, Ryan, having me on.
Ryan England here. Thank you so much for listening to Titans of the Trades. If you're a Titan in the construction, manufacturing, or skilled trades industry and would like to be a guest on my show, please visit podcast.corematters.com. If you found value in this interview, would you share this episode on social media? Just do a quick screenshot on your phone and share it with a friend or post it on social. And if you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Titans of the Trades. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episodes, click the subscribe button. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and get me one step closer to solving the labor crisis facing the industry. Want to know more about how we're doing that? Go to our website or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening.